Howard introduced me to Blossom and said, you know, she is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I started doing some pro bono cases in 1964, 65 on behalf of prisoners at Lorton, starting with the 250 prisoners at the maximum security institution, and then the 1,000 at the medium security. And then finally, I had 1,000 women who had been brought into the DC prison system. And in all of these cases, Blossom was my right-hand person. She was the individual who initially with me and then without me went to these institutions down to Lorton, to the jail, interviewed these inmates, determined the conditions under which they were held. And these cases all went to trial and resolution, and we won every case. Blossom was at the heart of those cases because not only did she prepare me to try the case, but she was able to communicate with an amazing variety of individuals who ended up in these terrible institutions. And I remember fondly about the class action on behalf of about 1,000 women who were housed at Lorton, who were housed under unmanageable conditions. The trial that we had was given much publicity. And at the end of the trial, the judge and the jury sustained our position. Blossom then worked on cases for me that went on for some 30 years. I had a case called the Dixon case, in which we sued on behalf of, at the time, thousands of individuals at St. Elizabeth Hospital who, in my view, being jailed under terrible conditions. Once again, Blossom was at the heart of the case. And not only did she involve herself in these cases, but I don't know if somebody has covered this, but she prepared her own handbook for those in the city who were disadvantaged.
Yeah.
How to find a hospital, how to find a doctor, how to find a lawyer, basically how to find your way around if you were disadvantaged and didn't have access to resources. She was an amazing, loving person.
Yes.
I worked with Blossom, I guess, for 20 some years. With Blossom, the cases that I've mentioned and some others served as a basis for the pro bono award by the DC Bar, and Blossom was honored along with me because of the work we had done with inmates, with the mentally ill, with foster care children. I later became, when Adrian Fenty was the mayor, I became his attorney general.
Mm.
I had occasion to visit with Blossom many times. She is one of my favorite people, and I was so saddened to hear of our loss.
Thank you, Peter, for telling us these stories. We really appreciate. I'm glad you could get on.
It took me a long time. Unfortunately, I'm not very versed in how to get into anything.
You got on at just the right time, and we really appreciate your sharing here. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work and your legacy. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Valoria? Well, I don't know what that is. Anyone else? Sounds like somebody's playing a video game. doesn't it? Well, I poured myself a glass of wine to have a toast. About the rest of you folks. You got yours? Okay. Well, anybody got a glass of something? Got your glass of something here? I don't know how everybody got muted again. Let me unmute everybody. For our final,
I'm unmuted.
there we go. Now we're unmuted. Well, I personally have had a hard time coming up with anything to say. She's just too much with me, and I just can't believe she's gone. But for everything she's meant to all of us, to Blossom, may we be half the people that she was in our lives.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's been a joy to be with you tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, family. Thank you, family.
Thank you, family. Thank you, everyone. Rick,
Yes.
thank you for being
Yes.
on here. Did
Thank
you want to
you.
say something,
you.
Rick?
Yeah, I do. I just want to thank you, Ruth, for pulling us all together, pulling us all together.
Oh,
And you did a superb job. And I have to go to work now, so I want to thank you very much, Ruth.
Thank you, Rick, for being here.
On behalf of all the Riverside condo neighbors.
Oh, I'm
we
so
miss you.
glad you were here.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you so much. Blessings on your work tonight.
Thank you.
Whew. Well, did anybody else have another toast you want to make? I got a whole bottle here.
Numerous stories. I could tell some funny stories, Ruth.
You can?
Yeah.
Tell us one. We'd love to hear a funny story.
Well, there was a time that Blossom was going through some of the disadvantaged apartments trying to gather some people to help support something she was working on at the time. And she had someone to visit. There was a family there that she had to visit. And it had been cool and a little bit rainy in the spring. And so she had a beige trench coat on. And she went to this neighborhood and she knocked on the door of the woman she was there to see, and she didn't answer the door right away. So Blossom was kind of just hanging out. She walked back out to the street looking to see if maybe she was somewhere close by because she was expecting Blossom. And she went back to the apartment, and all of a sudden she noticed there was someone following her. And she didn't know what was going on. It was trying to be aware without being too obvious. And finally, this person badge and said, "Ma'am, you're under arrest." And Blossom was like, "I beg your pardon." And she was mistaking her for what they called the neighborhood mama. She was handling all the prostitutes in the area.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh, man.
Oh Jesus.
And so Blossom said, no, there's someone here that knows me. I'm here specifically to visit her. Let me knock on her door. And finally, the woman answered the door and was able to support Blossom's story. But yeah, but she got a big giggle out of that she named her mama.
You're muted, Ruth.
Tony, tell him what she said to you when you left the last time you visited.
Oh yeah, we had a great time, and
we were just about to leave. So I said, well, we have to go because I had to prepare for something I have to do tomorrow. And I said, oh, what are you planning for tomorrow? She said, what am I planning? The only thing I have planned is getting my diaper changed.
Oh my goodness.
And we left her apartment laughing all the way down the hall.
I bet you were.
Yes, yes.
Lucia could probably go on right with that. because she
Yes.
was zinger
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
Tony Glover said
Oh,
he
yeah.
had visited Blossom, and he asked her, well, what you got planned? She said, nothing but get my diaper changed.
Mm, 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 mm.
She told me a story, and it
Really?
probably was 9 months ago now.
That's what
that-
I thought.
Okay, wait a second here. Let's all listen to, I'm gonna mute. Let's hear another Bobby story. Okay, go for it.
She told me this story about 9 months ago, almost too hard to believe, but she moved to DC when she was 18 and lived on her own, made her own way from that time on, which back in those days was really unusual. And I said, well, you know, what did you do? And she said, well, I was a secretary for a while, and then at night, Gracie, who's her best friend, she and I would serve ice cream cones on the corner down off of Constitution Avenue. And I said, I beg your pardon, you did what? And she said, well, there was this ice cream vendor that would bring cones to the corner, to the cars as they would drive up. And we would take the orders and we'd go back in the store and we get the cone made, and then we'd take it back out to the car. And I said, you did this what, like dinner time? And she goes, no, it was between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? No. It was a thing back then. And she said, we used to get in trouble because we didn't get the order of the flavors correct in the cone. We had to go back and do it again. So they were apparently very particular about how they had their flavors ordered. And they did this for tips, I guess. But I had this vision of her at 18 years old running back and forth in the store with ice cream cones from cars back. It just,
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, I wanted to share that other picture. I didn't get to share all those pictures you sent. Let me just see if I can find that one. I may not be able to.
the one you showed earlier with her on the bicycle,
Yeah, that's a good one.
that was taken, that island contains point.
Yeah, that was a good one, but there were some other good ones that I wish I could find here. Let me just see if I can pull it up really quickly. You had the one, this one I liked. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet.
You can't?
Low though, so maybe it'll come through. We'll see.
Oh, okay. I guess it's not gonna let me do that because it's that didn't work. Let's see. Okay. Let me just try that one more time because it's a great picture. Let me just try it one more time. You see that?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, anybody that knew Blossom would get a real giggle out of the size of that.
That drink. That's a big drink she's got there.
It is.
Yeah.
What kind of drink do you think it was? I don't remember her ever drinking.
Me neither. I've
No.
never seen a drink.
No, I think
40
years ago, she might have had wine with dinner on an occasion, but
Yeah.
I never saw her partake.
But look at the way her shoe is off her foot. Yeah.
Who is that in the background? That,
Some crinolines or something.
yes, I know.
Yeah.
Really me.
Yeah, that's a great one.
My mom used to make me wear so many crinolines, they'd stick straight out. She had a real liking for, what was her name?
Let's see if I can pull up.
That's what it was.
This was a nice one too, if I can get this one going here. Resume share. Stop share, new share. Here's one more I will share with you. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How tall was she at her greatest height?
Question. She
5'8",
was
5'9".
pretty tall, yeah.
She was tall, yeah. She had to have been, wasn't she like 6 foot or no?
I don't know if she quite made 6 foot, but she was
Yeah.
between, 5'9" and 6 feet.
She looks so much like Janet. It's not funny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can remember when I was little, she used to give all her cars names.
All her cars?
Uh-huh. She would name them.
I was talking, was it Tony? Was it you I was talking with about driving with her? About how awful that was?
Yes.
You hated
Well,
driving?
every car I would ride with her, and then after a few years she would get another one, and you could chronicle her life by the cars, because the Dart Swinger and the Dart and all of those cars came back to back, and I was privileged to ride with her in all of these cars and just have conversations that we rode. It was wonderful.
I was talking with somebody the other day, I thought it was you, who told me that they rode with her one time and never wanted to ride with her again.
No, not me. I rode with her many times.
That wasn't you. Yeah. I remember the time, Brian, you could tell the story when she was taking the dry ice. Remember that story? The car story?
Yeah.
Y'all hear that story when she had the dry ice in the car?
No.
Blossom, for many years represented Covington in hosting these family night dinners at Cardozo.
Right.
And it was really a big deal. It was a way to encourage parent and family participation and all this kind of stuff. And she was all in. She took all this real seriously. So I remember one day that she was on her way off to that, and then we got a call from an EMS that she was on New York Avenue, like New York and New Jersey.
Near First Street, yeah.
Yeah. And actually it was just this side of North Capitol. And that she had to call an ambulance, and they rushed her to the hospital, but her car was there. So she asked if, I don't know, I wound up going up there to get her car. So I get there just as the ambulance is ready to go off, and so I've got the keys.
And she'd gotten faint, right? She'd gotten faint as she was driving.
Yeah, she got kind of faint. But that was common for her at the time. She spent years and years calling ambulances, and I know that was such a frustration for her, but it was kind of what she was living with, this crazy blood disease.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got the car, and it's rush hour, it's bumper to bumper traffic, and I get a couple 100 feet, and all of a sudden I started to get really, really dizzy, and I didn't know if I'm having a heart attack or what's going on, and because I didn't know anything about what was in the car, but she'd been over to the farmer's market to pick up all of these popsicles, and they were stored in dry ice, and they were in the trunk, and it was July, and it was 100 degrees out, so I had the air conditioning on, as did she.
The windows rolled up, yeah.
So I had to stop and pull over and sit on the curb, and I thought I was just going to pass out, and I was wondering how I could get an ambulance myself. And so I sat there for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I started to come to, and then I opened the trunk and saw these boxes. So that was our big joke for a long time, the day Blossom tried to kill me.
Well, thank God for you and Ruth. We would play telephone tag. If Blossom had to go to the hospital by the ambulance, Brian or Ruth would check on her and let me know how it was, and if I needed to hop in the car and come down right
Oh my God.
an hour to get down there.
Yeah.
And so we would play telephone tag, trying to keep tabs on how she was doing or what she was doing or
Yeah.
whatever.
But, you know, none of that was going to stop her. She just kept right on going.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Nope. Well, even in the last week before she passed, she was trying to get out of the bed.
Hmm.
One of the nurses from the agency called me and she said, I don't know what to do. She's trying to get out of the bed. She's insistent she's going to get up, but we all knew she couldn't hold her own weight.
Yeah.
We went through some gymnastics trying to talk her down off of trying to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Oh, Lord.
And then it happened that the work that was there was very tiny. And so we knew if she got out of the bed and ended up on the floor, she wasn't going to be able to get her back in the bed.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
You could never, I have to say, she used to irritate me as much as I loved her. Boy, she
Oh,
irritated
thank
me.
you, Bruce.
Yes.
I mean, oh man.
We've all been there, I'm sure.
See,
I'm
that's,
just
but that's the
saying,
wine talking.
I'm just saying, oh, I tell you, she, you know, you could never even thank her. You could never thank her for anything because she never would accept a thank you. She always had to turn it around. She always had to be the one, you know, that was really thanking. And I mean, I don't know. It's just, it was tough there sometimes. And I know that she was tough with you, Bobby. I mean, I know, and you were there for her all the time. You really were. And she didn't make it easy for you. She did not make it easy for you. And I really appreciate the way that you took care of her. And
Well, I have to say my mom made a good example, and God love her, Blossom could push more buttons with my mom than anybody I have ever seen. Mom said she grew up, she was the oldest, and so it was her job to learn how to take care of the household, while Blossom had moved to the grandmothers, and they saw each other regularly and they stayed close, but I often used to wonder the anomaly because they were so completely different.
yeah.
I was old enough to understand that that's how it had all worked out. It made a little more sense to me. But even in her latter years, my mother would have a conversation with Blossom, and she had retired to Florida. And they'd have long conversations, and then my mother would immediately hang up from talking to Blossom and call me for a sanity check. Because she thought she was losing her mind or was just totally out in left field. And asked me if she was like crazy or was this really, and I said, no, Blossom. Blossom's just pushing your buttons. She's trying to get a response out of you.
Yeah.
It's from a good place. She had a hard time understanding why when she asked my mother how she was, my mom would give her an honest answer because my mom dealt with fibromyalgia and different types of arthritis as she got older. And so she was constantly trying to deal with that. And she used to get frustrated because she said, if people don't want to know how I am, they shouldn't ask the question. So
Blossom wanted she wanted a better answer.
Yeah,
but it was a challenge.
Interestingly, in the last few years, Blossom had a different perspective. She had been so healthy up until the last 10 years that she never had to experience that.
She was really suffering there at the end. She really was suffering a lot. Those last few months were very painful. You'd often go in and she would talk about how and she loved it. She was very kind to most of the caregivers. Some of them she was extremely hard on and very just outright mean. And she because she could never whisper. Her whisper was always like across the room, She would try to whisper, but everybody could hear everything she said.
Yeah.
And so it'd be kind of embarrassing to be in the room when she's whispering to you about how much she detests these and how stupid these caregivers, and never Musu. Musu was always a
I
approach.
was going to say Musu was a godsend because
Yeah, she was, but that was difficult, and so she was suffering. I mean, that's it. She was in pain. She was. She was. All the movements to change her diaper. That was a big deal because they had to move her, and she was just so. It scared her because she couldn't breathe, and so again, I'm so glad that she died. I mean, we all hate. She said, she told me often, I don't want to die alone. Said that over and over again. I don't want to die alone. And then she did die alone because her caregiver had just gone out the door down to do the laundry or something, and so she was alone when she died.
She was napping.
So you hate that. You wish you could have been there, right by her side, holding her hand, but it just wasn't to be. And so I'm just glad that she died before we couldn't even have gone to visit her at all.
Yes.
And that would have been really painful for her.
There was a reason.
Because it was very hard to talk to her on the phone. That was nearly impossible.
It became impossible. Yeah. And I tell you, Ruth, there at the end, I thought I was going to have to take her phone away from her because she would get frustrated with the agency people, and she would get her cell phone, and so she would try to call anybody she could think of, and the problem was she would think that you weren't answering the phone because she couldn't hear you.
Because she couldn't hear you, right? So she'd dial you 10 times in a row, right?
And then she thought there was something wrong if you weren't calling her back. But if you called her back, you couldn't make her hear you.
Right. Yeah, it was a
no-win situation. Yeah.
Getting there for sure.
Yeah.
But she would have had some joke. I don't know what it would have been, but she would have had some joke for tonight or or what we're doing now, or she would have had a pun, one of her crazy puns.
Yes. I told Ruth that she was going to be sitting in a wingback chair up there laughing at us trying to make the technology work so that we communicate with each other.
Yes. Well, let's say goodnight to each other.
Sounds good.
We've got a few of us here, the stragglers. I think that's Grammy over here, Brian, on the iPad. Grammy, are you still with us? Rachel?
Ruth, if anyone wants to get in touch with me or wants to talk or whatever, feel free to give them my email, my cell phone number, whatever. I'd be more than glad to talk to them.
I will.
Avoid some of the conversations with some of her friends from Covington. She gave me a long laundry list of people to contact.
Yeah.
When she left. So I've been trying to reach all of them, and I think I've gotten just about everyone with your help.
I greatly regret that I have to admit right now to you, Bobby, that I didn't hit record when this started.
Uh-oh.
And that's just my, just trying to do this, and I didn't hit it initially. So I've been recording, for our informal conversation here, but I missed the rest of it. But we will share the printout, much of which was said. And Tony, I again apologize. I would have loved to have recorded your song. You can sing it for us again sometime and pass it on. But thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bobby, it's been great to be on this journey with you and to share the time with Blossom. Love you.
Love you too.
Wish the best for you and Wally and your whole family.
Thank you. I was going to say earlier that Blossom managed to intertwine her relationships every way you can imagine.
Yeah.
Jean McKenzie actually married Wally and I 32 years ago.
Wow. Nice. Nice. Tony and Carmelita, it's great to see you all again. God bless you.
I'm honored to be on here with you all. It's great.
And our little children grew up with Blossom. She was right there with them. They were the only two, pretty much. And she took good care of them and helped them be who they are today. And so we have that special bond with each other. God bless you. And Rhonda, I have pictures of us out there with the children and your mom when she was a little bit lighter than she is now. I was looking, I'll share some of those pictures that we had together working with children in the neighborhood. And so we spent a lot of earlier years together with Blossom, doing a lot of things. It's been great. And Grammy, she loved you and always respected you, and was glad that she got to know you some in her lifetime. So thank you for being on this tonight. Joanna, take care of yourself.
Will do.
God bless everybody.
Bless
Good
you.
night.
Good
Good
night.
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 Good night.